Hey everyone, Assalamu alaikum. I am Alia from Alias Kitchen Creations. In this video today, I'm going to show you the most simplest and easiest way to make the most amazing brownies you have ever had. They are soft, ooey, gooey, fudgy, chocolatey, melt in the mouth, delicious. For those of you joining me for the first time today, I'm going to be sharing some really amazing, simple and easy recipes from traditional Pakistani and Indian cuisine to new and unique fusion dishes from all over the world. So if you want to see some really tasty recipes, be sure to hit that subscribe button. So the ingredients I'm going to use are 50 grams of flour. I've got 225 grams of castor sugar, 110 grams of butter, a pinch of salt, about 1/4 of a teaspoon, 25 grams of cocoa powder, 2 eggs. I'm going to use half a teaspoon of vanilla essence and some cooking chocolate. We're going to use about 125 grams of chocolate in our recipe. Some of that we're going to melt and some of that we're going to use as little chunks in our brownie. It gives it such a lovely bite when you bite into that brownie and you get a little chunk of chocolate in between. Now again, it's up to you whether you use milk chocolate, but if you prefer, you can use a mixture of milk, dark and white chocolate just to give it a bit of extra flavour. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to melt our butter and our chocolate, and we're going to do this using a Bain-Marie. Now I know that sounds like quite a fancy term, but it's a very basic thing. I'll show you exactly what I mean. So for our Bain-Marie, we're going to take a pan and we're going to fill it half with water. On top of it, you're going to add your bowl. Now, make sure you've got a heat-resistant bowl and your bowl should not be touching the top of the water. It's very important that the bowl does not touch the water, otherwise your chocolate will burn. Into here, we're going to add our butter and we're going to add about 75 grams of chocolate. We're going to keep the temperature low. It just needs to be hot enough to simmer gently and melt the chocolate. We don't want it to be too hot. Whilst we're waiting for our butter and chocolate to melt, let's preheat our oven to 180 degrees. We're just going to keep mixing it together to make sure there's no lumps. I absolutely love chocolate. I mean, who doesn't, right? As you can see, it's all absolutely melted together beautifully. Now we're just going to take it off the heat and set it aside and let it cool. Whilst our chocolate is cooling, let's prepare our cake tin. I'm going to use a 7-inch baking tin. We're just going to use a little bit of oil and grease our tin. We're going to put some grease-proof paper into our tin and just push it along the sides. And then you're going to grease ever so slightly the top of it as well, so that your cake doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. There you go, our tin is ready. Now here I have a handful of walnuts. This step is completely optional and you can skip it if you don't want to add any nuts. But my husband absolutely loves nuts. So I like to add a little bit of walnuts into my brownie just to give that extra crunch in every bite. So we're roughly going to chop our chocolate into chunks as well. You can add as much or as less as you like, but for me that's about enough. It's about 50 grams. So let's now mix all our dry ingredients together. So first we'll put our flour and let's just sift it in. Into that we're going to add our cocoa powder and we're just going to add our 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Mix your dry ingredients together and set them aside to use later on. Let's break and whisk our eggs. Now we've poured our eggs in, we're going to whisk them for about 1 minute until they're light and fluffy. Into here we're going to add our castor sugar. Now this is where you're going to really need to use some muscle. You should see that the mixture will turn paler in colour as it becomes really nice and fluffy. Make sure you incorporate all that sugar into the egg. It's a bit of a workout. You don't want to over whisk the mixture because then your chocolate brownies are going to become more cakey and you want them to have that lovely gooey fudgy texture. So we're going to add half a teaspoon of vanilla essence. Okay, now our chocolate has cooled, we're going to pour it into our mixture. And let's just mix it all together really nicely. at that beautiful colour now as it all turns chocolatey brown. You don't want to overwork it, we're just mixing it together. Pour in all of your dry ingredients and just fold it in together. Again, we don't want to overwork it, so we're just going to mix it enough until all the dry ingredients are mixed with the wet ingredients and you can't see any of the powdery bits or any lumps in it. Everything looks like it's mixed in really nicely. So let's add in our nuts and our chopped chocolate bits. Let's mix it all nicely together. Let's pour in that beautiful mixture. Now what we're going to do is you're going to tap it like this, just about 12 times, and it's just to make sure that there are no air bubbles in there, because otherwise you're going to end up with a very cakey brownie. And just to top it off, I like to add a few chunks at the top, just to add a little bit of extra chocolate, because you can never have enough chocolate. It's been 25 minutes. Let's take our brownie out and see if it's ready. As you can see, it's got that lovely skin on the top now, so I think it's done. And it's shrinked away from the edges, so that shows me that it's probably ready. Now, when you look at it, it might look like it's a little bit wobbly, but don't let that put you off, because if you leave it for too long, it will harden and not have that lovely gooey center. So we want to make sure we take it out at just the right time and leave it to cool. You can insert a knife to check the consistency of your brownie. It should come out gooey and sticky and not wet. If it looks too wet, you can put your brownie back in the oven for another couple of minutes. And as you can see, it's got that beautiful flaky crust at the top. So let's cut into it and see what it looks like from inside. Now when you've seen me cut the brownie, you can see that there's a little bit of gooiness inside it. Don't be scared if this is what your brownie looks like. It's perfectly normal because it's still warm. So what we need to do is we need to leave it now for about 2 hours to completely cool down, and all that gooiness will ever so slightly harden to give that firm shape to the brownie. The reason I cut my brownie now is because I love it to have that rustic, flaky look on the top. If you leave it to cool entirely first before cutting it, then you'll get just a flat look at the top of your brownie like you do in the shops. But I love it to have that lovely, flaky, rustic look, which is why I've cut it. I'm not going to serve it yet. I'm going to let it cool completely, just so that it can harden ever so slightly and it doesn't fall apart when we eat it. So join me in 2 hours and I'll show you exactly how the final product looks. So as you can see, that gooey bit that we had 2 hours ago has now completely dried. Because it's cooled down, it's no longer oozing out, it's just left that lovely soft fudginess inside. There you go, can you see that beautiful soft gooey center in there? Wow, it looks absolutely beautiful, and I guarantee you it tastes better than any shop bought brownie you might have had. Doesn't that just look absolutely mouth-watering? I promise you, it is melt in the mouth delicious. I really hope you enjoyed cooking this with me today. Leave me a comment below to let me know what you thought, and I'll see you real soon with another delicious recipe on Alias Kitchen Creations. But for now, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep cooking.